We should have.
Oh, good job.
Oh, like the Jeopardy thing?
Yeah. Ross
Is that new?
here though. Yeah.
Hey,
All right.
that's good. It's already-
Yay.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Very good.
Yeah. I
Yay.
didn't do it.
Thank you, Ross.
Yeah. Well, you press the buttons.
Huh? All right. We're just launching our YouTube channel today, so everything's going to be on YouTube instead of Zoom going forward for the folks at home. So we are recording.
Just like the
I
county.
believe so.
Okay, we'll call the City of Kewaunee Common Council meeting Monday, May 9th, 2022 to order. Let the record show all members are present. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance and prayer and meditation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see. Okay, item 3, approval of the April 11, 2022 Common Council minutes, April 19th, 2022 Special Common Council minutes, and the April 25th, 2022 Special Common Council meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
We gotta do motion and
Wendy?
that first.
I have one change that I would like to see for the April, the special council meeting minutes. It says number 2, Nelson, Shelton and Blaha. It should be Nelson, Taylor and Blaha.
Did you find
What April? April 25th. Sorry.
To page 2.
I know.
Two.
So take out Shelton, put in Taylor.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve those notes with that one correction.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4, public comment. If anyone would like to speak under public comment, if they please come up to the podium, state your name and your address, and we'll have 3 minutes. If you could try to keep your comments at 3 minutes, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Up there, up to heaven.
Yeah.
Okay. Kurt Johnson, 803 Milwaukee Street. I know you guys had a common council meeting, well, actually the committee of the whole meeting with our new mayor, but this is the first regular council meeting with the new mayor, and I wanted to officially or publicly anyway thank Jeff for running, for serving, and for stepping up. And I know we'll all appreciate his leadership in that position. I have every hope that he is going to restore trust, credibility, transparency, honesty, and integrity to our city government. And frankly, those things were sorely lacking in the past administration. And so I think very optimistic that the public is going to be able to have some faith and confidence in City Hall going forward. I also want to congratulate and thank the 2 new council members here. Eric Woznicki and Kathy Brown for stepping up. And we have a very good council, but you guys are going to be great assets to the council. And I think you're going to have a great team here. Other developments that the public may or may not be aware of. We have a new city clerk. And as I said to her in the hallway, I've heard great things about her from members of the council. And so she sounds like a great addition. We have a new building inspector who actually was a building inspector with us previously. I've had a lot of experience with him in the past. And Brett is a straight shooter. He's got good rapport with contractors and with the homeowners. And I think he's also going to be a great addition. There's obviously a couple more positions that have to be squared away, the city administrator and the city attorney, but I think we're well on our way to getting the kind of government that the city of Kewaunee deserves. My last comment is going to relate to the closed session that you're going to have on Robbie Davister, the former building inspector, and his invoice. And let me say, as an attorney, that invoice was incomplete, unprofessional, and unacceptable. And the council should only pay what he clearly has actually and properly itemized and justified. And I would also note that he flat out insulted the council and the city in open session when he was asked to provide credentials for the individual who did inspections for him. And he flat out refused. He basically told you to go stick it. And, you know, I mean, that is just absolute arrogance. It's unacceptable. The council and the citizens have a right to know who's doing their inspections. So I'll conclude. I'll just say that if there's any 50-50 calls when you're in closed session on any of those itemized items, I think he's kind of forfeited the benefit of the doubt as far as how he's conducted himself. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Anyone else who would wish to speak?
Yeah, hi, State Representative Joel Kitchens. We're done in session now, so there's not a lot for me to report, but there's new mayor and a couple of new council members and a fair amount of change in the government. So it's an opportunity for me to come in and catch up on what's going on in Kewaunee County, in Kewaunee City. And, just say that if you guys have anything you need help with, now's a really good time to do it. Since we're done in session, this is the time we start working on things for next session. So I just wanted to, invite you to contact my office if there are things that you see that we need to address. And also there's a box of blue books back there if anybody in the audience or up here would like a Wisconsin blue book. So thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak under public comment this evening?
Lee Clark, 1321 Ellis Street. I got a question because I didn't know that it changed our policy of picking up for spring cleanup. I live in an elderly neighborhood, everybody knows that. And I ended up Sunday picking up the neighbors' leaves and cedar droppings because she said the cops were over by her house saying the city wouldn't pick it up. He said it had been picked up, put in garbage bags, so they could haul it away. Well, what the hell happened to our vacuum for spring cleanup to pick it up? Does it run? Does it pay to pick it up in bags and then bring it up there and empty the bags? That didn't make sense to me. And I never got a letter in the mail saying this is what we're doing from now on. We're bagging our leaves and for the city to pick it up. I never got nothing like that. So Sunday morning, I made a promise to her, if they can't get a high school kid on Friday to pick it up, I'll pick it up when I get back on Sunday. So I picked it up. I guess I just want to hear something, or when did it change? Or doesn't our machine run? So if these guys get back to me on that one, I'd sure to hell appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Anyone else wish to speak under public comment this evening? Is there anyone else? Did we have anybody check into Zoom? This is our last meeting that we'll have online Zoom.
There's nobody online.
If there is no one else to speak under public comment this evening, we'll close public comment. Next item on the agenda, item 5, boards, commissions, committee and staff reports. Planning Commission, Kewaunee Pier Lighthouse, and the staff report attached. Anyone have any questions on any of the reports? The police report was, I believe, placed on the desk in front of you. Late homework assignment.
I would move that we accept those reports
I'll
as
second.
submitted.
Motion Taylor, second by Nelson. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mayor's report. I don't have anything to report tonight. We've got a lot to discuss and get through tonight, so I'm not gonna bore anybody with anything like that right now. So we will move on to item 7, unfinished business, license approval, combination Class B liquor and fermented malt beverage. Arda Alex Yannick, Karsten Nest Hotel, Legend Bar, 122 Ellis Street. Robin, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
This was canceled for our last cow meeting, correct? This item was a late scratch for the last cow item. Now, are we required to have it brought up to Cal and forwarded to council, or what is the proper procedure for this? I'm just wondering. Mr. Nesbitt?
Proper procedure would be to run it through the council first, but the council does have the right to override that if you wish to do so.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, any further discussion? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 8, new business. Consider and act on recommendation from COW ordinance amendment relating to possession of tobacco and nicotine. There is an attachment on that. That was recommended. Do we have a motion to approve?
I would move to approve it.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 8B, consider and act on recommendation from COW, City County-wide electronic recycling event with additional information as requested. Do we have a motion to approve that? Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Have we finalized a venue location for that? Is it the Hamachek parking lot? Nate?
Ideals as in and out. And then Casey gets here, if anybody has any further questions on the program, he's the representative from company Dynamic. But yeah, that would be the ideal location in my mind.
So I was contacted that the transfer station is the recycling point for the county as well. How would this differ from that in regards to having residents go there? Is this going to be because it's more of a convenience because it's held in town? Or what's the difference, I guess?
The DNR granting helps cover for the cost of the electronic recycling. So
So I understand there's no cost to the city.
there's no cost
for
to the
hosting
city,
this.
There's no cost to the people bringing the list of our electronics.
Mr. Mayor, can I just make one recommendation? On the new business, on these items, can we just, instead of just approving them, can we just wrap a couple sentences around them? A lot of the people that are here probably weren't at the COW meeting, so if we just simply approve it, and basically nobody knows what we're talking about.
Sure. Do you want to take this opportunity just to give a little words about, or the person from the recycling is here? Because also we're promoting it at the same time, so.
Happy to do a quick spiel on it.
Thank you.
So as Nate indicated, the DNR did come out with a grant to award some money to help some of the recycling costs that go along with electronics recycling. And there were a handful of counties that were identified as sort of being underserved or not having a lot of different options. I don't know if the DNR was aware that there is a location here in Kewaunee or not, but Kewaunee County was one of the counties that was identified. So Dynamic is an electronics recycling company located in Onalaska, Wisconsin. And what we do is we either work directly with counties and municipalities that bring their electronics to us, or we go and pick them up. Or we do these one-day events throughout the state. We also do events up in Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, where we'll send a handful of people to an event site for a day. We'll be open for a handful of hours where people can come through and drop off an identified list of electronics. It's typically your household electronics, your TVs, monitors, computers, things of that nature. And as Nate indicated, this grant does award or does allow for free electronics recycling for these handful of items, which is, I know, a little bit different than how most different facilities, especially local facilities, will take electronics and charge for those types of things. So.
How do you market this so that people know like what the other date picked out and?
Nope. So it's definitely in the preliminary stages of that. So we don't have any dates identified yet. It's something where we'd be open to whatever really works best for the community in the county. Actually, it's a grant that is good, I think, for the next year from date of award, which it hasn't quite been awarded yet. We have heard from the DNR that they didn't receive the amount of applications for the allotted funding. So we feel very confident that the grant will be awarded for the county here. Essentially, yeah, it's something it's pretty open-ended, and be happy to kind of talk with the council here for.
Can another organization come in and like do paper shredding too, same day?
As far as, however you guys wanted to organize any sort of allotment of your space, absolutely. As far as what Dynamic does, we strictly only take electronics, but yeah, there'd be no restrictions on saying, this part of the lot could be for paper shredding or any other types of materials that a company wanted to take.
As we get this solidified, we can put information on our website. We can also bring it up at the council meeting so that our citizens are more aware of what's going on as well.
Yep, and I think based on some of the funding that we have and some of the numbers that we put together for what we feel we would take for some of the pieces that we were going to put towards the DNR funding, I think that there would be some funds that we'd be able to put towards some advertising costs as well. So if that means through local papers or I'd probably lean to somebody here as far as what works best for the county and getting that word out. But we would definitely be all ears for some of that as well.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, consider an act on recommendation from COW, lead lateral replacement process, materials, paperwork, fees, etc. Tony, you want to put some words around that for us?
I don't have much of a voice, so whatever you have for questions or as far as that goes, I'll answer, but I'm assuming everyone got in their packets all the stuff I wrote up. And I compared it to what I got from Manitowoc for examples. The estimates I got from Matt White of Met Services for doing the digging, that's what he's gonna go for cost for us. Like I said, I guess I'm just making sure if you guys read through everything and seen that it's okay to your liking, I'll send those forms out. No, that's fine. Unless they have questions, I'll maybe take that. If it's up to your liking, I'll get those mailed out to plumbers and contractors. We can get the ball rolling with that. And excuse me, once I get all that information back from them, then I'll send the letters out to the homeowners and they can start scheduling their appointments for stuff for getting this done. So I know the last thing was funding. Whether it was going to be half ARP, half half that, half undesignated surplus. The only thing, like I said, the only thing I'm concerned about is in the tail end of it for, like I said, the paving part. If there's still monies that need to be acquired, you take that out of my undesignated surplus yet that are planning, so everything will be taken care of then. So
do you have an idea of how many households you're going to be servicing with this project?
I think it was, what idea if I told you the number anymore, it was either 26, 28 or 30 or something like that, I want to say. Whatever the math was for 78 divided by 3, I guess. That's how many houses. So 26, is that what it was? Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so Rob will make them.
Motion to approve this project.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Let's call roll on this.
John Blaha,
Yes.
Jim Brewster.
Aye.
Kathy Brown.
Aye.
Robin Nelson,
Aye.
Wendy Shelton.
Aye.
Rich Taylor,
Aye.
Eric Wasdicki.
Aye.
Janina Zimmerman.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks.
Item 8B, Kewaunee Harbor Marina Planning Update. Do we have Jim already? I didn't, oh, he's back there, back row.
I've got a handout to pass around.
Peace.
Lots of paper. I'm not seeing any trees today. Sorry.
Just a minute, Jim.
Okay.
Somebody's trying to get in on Zoom. Is there? Are they allowed? The mic isn't.
I'll just-
Talk
The,
up.
The green line.
Okay.
If you need to push it forward, Joe,
Push the, yeah.
push
Push
the whole thing forward.
so you're.
Somebody said the batteries are dead in the mic there.
Yeah, you're actually speaking into that speaker up there.
Yeah, the green light.
Batteries are dead, Willard.
Every month. I think so.
Funny.
Start?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to go through a review of, Steve had asked me to go through all the different things that are going on in the harbor right now. So what I did is I put together a table for everybody. There's a lot of projects going on. And I'll try to make this short, and by keeping it short, if you look at the center column, it's got some red in it. I'll just focus my comments there. The rest is for yourself, just so that you can take it back as a reference for over time. So just a lot of things going on. I'll try to touch base on the highlights of all those things. So overall, there's about 10 projects going on. A lot of those are within the Fisherman's Point project. That is a project that's got different elements to it. There's hydraulic and hydrology study, the concept plan, and then the final plan. It's also had some environmental. Does it work now?
The lights on.
Hello,
Nobody's home.
better? Can you hear me now out there?
Speak up. maybe.
Must be done.
Lights on it.
Yeah.
I'll just keep trying to talk.
Yeah.
So,
And louder.
sorry. So as you start from the top to the bottom, the environmental services phase 2 was done for that project. We had to take a look at the property and the environment, the ground and the contamination on the point. The good news is they're on their second sampling event at the end of May. And so far, no methane's been detected, which they kind of suspected it might, but it hasn't. So we'll see where the next sampling comes in. That basically is followed by a closure report. And that would be probably, we're looking at, if you look to the right, all these things probably are going to come together sometime in the fall. The H&H study, that's an ongoing event. Basically, what that does is it shows the site design. They're going to raise that site up about 2 or 3 feet. And you have to show the impacts on other properties. So that's what that study does. That's ongoing as well. right below that, the conceptual site design. We've had that done for quite a while. We were waiting on the FEMA maps, which they came, and we're now able to start to look at those. But recently, some of the contacts we made with the DNR have brought to life the ordinary high water mark issues and also the bulk line determination. What you're trying to do there is identify areas that you can design up to and around. So maybe I asked Brandon to join us, give us a little bit more specifics on that, if you could.
Yeah, the importance with the high water mark and the bulkhead lines is essentially what you can do to the shoreline treatment. So as Jim said, the plans and everything are pretty much done for raising that to 2 to 3 feet as intended. But as the water has gone back down to normal levels now, you can see the old sheet piling and stuff that's around it that's really busted up and hazardous. There's a lot of debris and damage and different things like that. And depending on what the DNR determines as the high water mark or what the bulkhead lines are, dictates what can or can't be done, basically to the shoreline to kind of address, at this point, what are, somewhat of safety concerns or hazardous issues. So we're kind of communicating with the DNR to figure out what they're going to allow us to do along the shoreline is that piece of it.
After that would be the final design that'll be coming up towards the, we're looking at sometime in June or July. That was what we're targeting. The first blue line that goes across is the CDBG grant administration. Basically there, we're looking at reviewing all the files to ensure compliance with federal and state and local regs. There's a self-monitoring process that goes with that. That was will be sent into the state for their approval. So they basically know our plan to monitor ourselves. And then the big thing coming up is there's a public hearing. I think it's scheduled, Steve, for the 23rd.
Yes, sir.
And that's here in Kewaunee. So that's to inform the public of what's happening with the project.
Jim, I have a question. So you're telling us that possibly by May 23rd, or at least the first week or so in June, we will be able to know what it is that we're allowed to do with that parcel of land known as Fisherman's Point.
Right.
We'll have an idea of what can be put there.
Right. Yeah. You'll have that with the concept design.
Thank you.
You bet. Right after that, there's another project that just came up recently. The FEMA maps are in, and they have some, there's a need for us to comment on some of those, and the city should comment on those is our suggestion. But there's a May 19th deadline coming up that we probably should get back in touch with you after this meeting to see what you'd like us to do on that. So we can support the city on an hourly basis because we really don't know what's going in to their request until we start talking with them a little bit more. But all we need is a goal, basically, and we're ready. The marina planning project that, and then the one right below it, the harbor area master plan. Those are the two projects that we put together in the form of one application. The marina planning project is what the city committed to paying for locally. And the center of that whole thing is really the dock designs. But there's more to that, that effort. Edgewater is our sub-consultant on that, and they will take a look at not only the dock designs, but they'll spend some time investigating where you want to go with everything for starters. They'll look at the economics of the new designs. They'll look at the economics of what's going on in Lake Michigan and who's liable to stop and use the new marina layout. So they don't want to design for a past type design. So there's what they'll do is they'll work with you to establish goals and criteria, as it says, prepare initial concepts, and then review high level costs. That's at that first meeting. It's a 2-day kind of a charrette type thing. So we'll get a group together of stakeholders. We'll probably have a little tour, probably put folks in a small bus or so,
and come back either here or somewhere. I
about this way up well.
Yeah.
To them, see if we can get in there, if we have a lot of people.
if we have a lot of people, we might need to look for a little bit bigger place. But we'll come back, we'll bring folks back. We will, in the course of all that, present the different projects that were part of the application. Talk to them about what the ideas were before in the different plans we had that talked about the concepts and for improvement in each of the different areas. And then see if they're interested in continuing those concepts going forward, or if there's some changes. We'll come to some sort of conclusion there on each of the projects. And then we'll spend some time just drawing it up and then calling the people back into the session to take a look at what we've done. Following that, we'll probably go home and do some work on developing the cost estimates, the actual cost estimates, and the concepts and cost estimates a little bit clearer. So that's scheduled for where'd I go? July 12th and 13th. We picked we had a few different dates, and that one seemed to be the best for everybody. We ran into July 4th quite a bit in terms of holidays and vacation. So with the folks we needed. All right, and then so I kind of explained those two together. And then the Marsh Walk is on here too. There's a pre-application submitted by the city and Water 365. That's a firm that does a lot of work through the Great Lakes program to help with applications. And Augie's probably more familiar with where we're at on that, but I think they have another round coming up for consideration.
It's still under review yet for the second round.
So we don't know where that's going yet, basically. Marsh Walk is one of the projects that is listed in our plan. So this is basically if we found some revenue or funding support early, then basically it's kind of taking care of that piece of it in the plan, which would be good.
Is there any kind of that part of that Marsh Walk that's any good yet?
I'll defer.
I know
to
it's been closed
Nathan
for
first.
a while already, so.
There's parts of it that you can walk on, but a lot of the undercurling is in disrepair. It's
Nothing.
weathered and rotted. It's getting to the point where it'd probably be unsafe to let them because it gets blocked.
I think it's just completely blocked off.
Toward the, yeah, it's blocked out.
blocked
out.
Towards the overall condition, I
Mhm.
checked on it when there was still ice and there's some of it's still together, it's just deteriorating rapidly, and then the further end is actually.
Just guessing where it's okay.
I didn't focus.
Okay. Do we know when the next part of this grant application part, what is the next step?
For the marsh.
Marsh Walk.
You haven't given me a date
They haven't
yet,
given you-
so
okay.
it's next
I mean, it's a
week.
pretty arduous grant application, so, okay.
One of the things I'd like to point out on that is the next column talks about interconnectivity. That's just a look to see how each of these projects fit with some of the others. So I try to give you some sense of that for each of them. But that one's kind of interesting because it is near the Anapee Trail. And if we can somehow find design to connect with that, somehow that'd be kind of interesting and I think very beneficial to the community. The boat landing improvements, that is a project that's being done by Rupert and Milky. It was funded by the Clean Marina Program. I think they're targeting for September, Augie.
Yeah, we've got a meeting coming May 28th or 29th coming up.
And with that, they will look at site development, site drainage at the boat landing, and then location for a boat washing station, correct? The tug moorings and pilings harbor assistant grant, that project was awarded to the city. So basically, if you want to move forward with that, I think you are at a point, it's up to you to do that if you wish. I think the next step in that would probably be the engineering plans would have to be done along with the specs. The next one is Kewaunee Harbor habitat mapping. That's kind of an interesting project. It was brought to the city by, again, I think the folks through Water 365. Fund for Michigan is they brought in some fishery scientists from University of Milwaukee. And I was in that listening to the program. And I'm sure Augie can maybe explain it better, but basically what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll map from the mouth up into the river, and they'll end up with where the fish are. Sounds like a great thing, right? So they'll map the habitat. So when they map the habitat, that's of interest to us as planners. So we can come back and start to see if there may be some areas that maybe the marsh walk reaches out to or whatever, but you try to blend that if you can. That project is, I guess, waiting again for the next step in their application process. And then the last thing I mentioned on here, just for reference, so I think I didn't miss anything, was Yacht Works. I think we're all aware of, they're looking at larger storage. And so I don't really have much information to share there, but I thought it should be at least on the list so we don't miss it.
So if you go down interconnectivity, the CDBG blighted grant limitations, 5 years green site, could you just explain? I know there's a lot of people here and I get a lot of questions about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Can you explain and just clarify the 5 years green site?
Sure. So because you had a blighted site, and if you get CDBG block grant money for blighted site improvements, they have a condition on that you can't use that site for 5 years, other than green space.
And that 5 years started when?
That's a good question. I was asked that by Augie. I think it's going to start when the plans go in, but I could get back when the plans are accepted.
Okay.
But I can get back to you.
So the clock hasn't even started ticking yet.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. And I believe the reason they do that is they're trying to protect that property. You know, as they give out money for blight improvement, I think they want to make sure it's going back into the public trust in the right way. So, and did you have anything else, Brandon? Nope. Anything else? That's the short and sweet of it. Sorry, but I did leave you a lot of information to look through if you're interested. Thanks, Jim. Right, thank you.
We'll move on to item 8E, financial software selection process, update, direction, possible funding. Joanne, are you going to give us a briefing on that?
I'm sorry. Excuse me. So yes, we had this week, early on Tuesday, we had two companies come in to give us demos. The one was Civic. We had them come in and give us a demo. And then we also had another company called Workhorse Software. They came in and gave us a demo. You know, the two companies themselves are, I guess if you want to, they're similar, but yet they're different. So, you know, one like Civic is like kind of like bells and whistles and all these little added extra things that you can do. And Workhorse is pretty simple, basic. This is, let's just, you know, get the job done type of software. So Karen and I have been having conversations back and forth. We're weighing, you know, the pros and cons of each of the softwares. I am just this afternoon, I got a new updated price quote from Civic. So now I have to, you know, put the two together. I'm hoping to have a recommendation to the committee of the whole at the end of the month.
Okay. Are you, if the dollars are close, is there one particular software that seems like a better fit for the city?
Well, you know, Karen and I are leaning towards one software.
Okay.
And it happens to be the cheaper of the two softwares. So that's a benefit to the city. But we want to make sure that we do our due diligence and make sure that we, really look at the two and make sure we're getting what we want because and what we need, because we don't want to make a rash decision and then we're in
Stuck with
another,
it.
well, right, and we're in another boat. And then that's the other side of the coin is we're also looking at a start date of January 1st, 2023, just because of everything that's coming up this year with the elections and with everything that's going on, Karen taking time off, for her stuff. So with everything that's working out, we're just going to kind of shoot for a January 1st, 2023 start date into the new software.
Yeah, so have you updated Mr. Kabaki on the two software suites that you were looking at? And what
Yes.
their functionalities were?
We're still discussing some of that, and with this type of project, the more time you put in on the front end, the better the project's gonna be on the back end. And the old adage, garbage in, garbage out, that type of thing. Bottom line is the more time we spend on this, the more comfortable we get. We're gonna get a better product when it's all said and done, especially with these software programs. And Jim is probably very familiar with that. The work you put in on the front end helps you on the back end.
Are you looking at the hardware cost too, or is it gonna run on our current servers or?
We're gonna
Run it off the.
We're gonna look at the whole picture. Once we identify the software that we like, we're gonna take a look at the hardware and bring it all together in one package. And those ARPA funds would be a great use because it's a long-term, solid, positive impact on the community that benefits all departments, not just clerks or administration or whatever else the case may be. Everyone that uses it is gonna benefit by the ease of use and the better reports that we'll be getting from that type of software program.
So then we'll have this recommendation at the cow. You feel we'll have it at the cow, or we're just gonna have another update at the cow?
We'll see.
Okay, stay tuned. Let's see. Rich, you had a question?
Thank you. Well, I was just gonna mention that maybe with our new horizontal city structure of our workforce, I was wondering if either one of those particular software suites lended itself to all the different reporting requirements that we would have, and with a contracted building inspector who would probably have to integrate his reports into that as well.
Once we know a little bit more, I think the important thing would be to sit down with all the department heads and make sure that what we're doing, there's no red flags that we might have missed something.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that update. Then we'll move on to item F. Consider and act on recommendation from SOQ committee regarding statement of qualification, design services, roadway improvements for Dodge Street and Center Street. So the committee met. Who wants to?
I'll speak to that.
Okay.
Okay, so the three of us got together and we went over the two companies that actually submitted their SOQs. Both companies were highly qualified. Per the score sheets that each one of us submitted, Cedar Corp did score the highest. And I'll say that the main reason why Cedar Corp scored the highest was criteria number 5, which was history and familiarity with the city for Cedar Corp versus Gray. Now, this is basically just to see who is going to be submitting our grant application for the BIL grant. And, I think that both companies would do a good job. We've decided as our committee to go with Cedar Corp. However, one thing that was mentioned was it might be kind of nice if at some point, maybe not this time for this task, but at some point, if we were able to get other companies interested in submitting for work in the city of Kewaunee, such that we have a competitive environment to receive the best deal and the most competitive bids that we can get. So just with that in the back of our mind, just maybe think for the future, if we get one or two other companies that can throw their hat in the ring for work in Kewaunee, we might end up benefiting from a more competitive situation. That said, Cedar Corp scored the highest, so that's our recommendation.
Appreciate you guys going through that evaluation for the firms. So Steve, if we're gonna make a recommendation or make a motion to accept Cedar Corp as the firm, we don't have a dollar amount because that wasn't part of the process to be factored. So how do we approve the funding of, we had a rough dollar amount that we all approved prior, so we don't have to do a financial approval at this time, just simply naming the firm.
I think the dollars will come forward at another point in
Right.
time. I think we're gonna.
Firm selection tonight.
Negotiate with them relative to the dollar amount that we're comfortable with.
Okay.
Trying to get the best value for the community. Yes.
All right, then, are you making a motion?
Make a motion that we go ahead and award this task to Cedar Corp.
Do we have a second?
One second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 8G, staff hiring update, street department labor, administrative assistant, clerk's office. Steve, were you gonna update us on that?
Yeah, just a brief update. We have an offer of employment out to an individual for the street department labor position. We have the letter of acceptance back from that individual. That individual will be starting within the next week to 2 weeks. And we'll be going through the hiring process of filling out the appropriate paperwork, the forms, state, federal, whatever, you name it. And so with that position, we feel we have a good young individual who's going to benefit the community long-term as we go forward. Administrative assistant, clerk's office, that's an ongoing effort. We're sitting down tomorrow, myself, the mayor, Joanne and Karen, and going over where we are at right now. We did interview some individuals, and we're doing some background checks and some other things at this point in time. And we'll be giving an update to the city council at the COW on the 23rd of May.
All right, thank you, Steve. Item 8H, April 2022 cash report. Want to have any questions on that?
Wendy, just one thing too, we're still trying to identify those dollars.
I've got more.
What?
I've
Okay.
got more coming up.
Yeah. Those dollars, I haven't been able to get the numbers to come together the way they should, so we haven't forgotten about that. We're just trying to find out exactly what it means. So
I've got probably a couple more to add to your list.
that sounds good.
If there's nothing on our cash report, we'll move to item 8I, year-to-date revenue. What?
I thought you said.
Oh, I thought it was the next
She
report.
said there was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. And I've got a question when you finish what you're saying.
So you have a question on item 8H, the cash report? Okay. Then we'll move on to 8I, April 2022 year-to-date revenue and expenditure report, Michelle.
Okay. I have a lot of questions about the telephones. On page 3 of expenditures. In the planning, zoning, building inspection, there's a phone charge for $371.35 in April. I don't think we paid, do we pay for Brett's telephone? Regulates? I don't think so.
That wasn't part of our deal.
So what does that cost and why, we don't have a building, we don't have a building inspector staff, so what is that? What is that $371?
Let me, I'll do some research on that and I'll respond back to the next meeting. What
Okay.
page was that on? Page 3? That's planning, zoning, building inspection. And that's telephone, which is
Telephone.
371.
Yep.
35.
Steve, do we have one phone bill and then you're prorating across the departments or
Mm-mm.
is it broken out?
It's broken out and actually, I'm not sure if Jim's here. Jim's doing some work with our various phone vendors. And we've, he's come up with some things that we're gonna be eliminating as we go forward. So he's working on it. He's in charge of the phone.
Great,
at one time.
great, because it's crazy.
I think we have some ghost accounts, more or less, right?
Yeah, we've got some phones that we're taking a look at. We wonder why we're having the phone at that location because we can't quite figure out what it served. So we're gonna be eliminating that. I think I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I think we'll probably have savings of at least $200 a month, I believe, when it's all said and done.
All of that.
I'll bet
that.
more
Yeah.
than,
Yeah,
okay,
so that's a work in progress.
okay.
Yeah,
So that'll be an item for the next cow. Please remind me.
I will remind you.
We can have an update at the next cow relative to
Perfect.
what we found, what we discovered, and what we would recommend to change.
Okay. My next thing is on page 13 in expenditures. Again, telephone, and it's economic community development. And the big problem with this is we only have I don't know why we have any budget at all for this telephone, but it's 265 and $442.20 was spent. So that's over budget for something we don't have a staff for that.
Take a look into that. We will also update you as it relates to where we are. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get our phones.
And then on page 15, I guess this is in Marina, it's just $515 for the telephone for the Marina. That just seems really expensive.
What do you have down there? We have a landline, we have a credit card machine, right?
It's all hooked up to the iPad. I think it was missed. I think she forgot to pay it. So
Okay, so it's
I
maybe
think
2
it's
months.
a lot. Yeah. I think
Okay.
That's what that is.
All right, and I think that's it.
Does anyone else have any questions on the revenue and expenditure report? Move on to item 8J, April 2022 accounts payable and payroll report. Do we have a motion to approve that?
Make a motion to approve it.
Further discussion?
Oh, I do have one question. So there's the Blue Door Tournament Series, $500 Brown Trout Tournament. Was that, was that a donation? Do we know what that was? Fabulous. Okay. The Brown Trout one on page 10.
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one question on that? Okay. Prior to this report like this, I know the way it used to be done. Now, this include, the check register, the check detail register includes prepays and regular bills, right? Prepays being those bills that need to be paid. So these have already been paid, correct? Okay, so prepays would be bills that, let's say, need to be paid by a certain date. For instance, your insurance bill, your utility bill comes due, payroll, taxes, those types of things come due. I know prior to that, the council used to then go through bills that were not prepaid bills. Those would be bills, let's say, for instance, contractor did a sidewalk. So then they would send that bill into the city. Those bills would be approved then at the council meeting. So now these bills here, everything that gets submitted automatically is paid. So this is just basically a formality, right? Because everything's been paid.
This is basically a history of what has transpired. Yes.
That what has transpired, but they have all been paid already. Correct.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you're right. That's the way it used to be. We had the prepaid and then the ones that were like a contractor thing or something like that, that we would then go through. And that would usually be done at finance prior to the
That would
council.
be done at the finance, and that's why I was trying to determine how the bills were paid now compared to the way they used to be paid.
I think with the finance committee, they'd actually get some approval to pay it. This is not an approval. This is a surrender.
This is basically what this is.
It's what it is. We surrender. It's already done.
It's already a done deal.
And I think some of that has to do with timing too. You know, some of them are due in 30 days. I think there are some that sometimes are due in 15 days. So that being said, you got to kind of work your way through that process, but whatever you feel is the most comfortable for the way you want to operate, by all means, if you set up the finance committee and you want to go that route, that's the prerogative of city council. Yes.
Creating a financial policy would be nice.
And-
Yes.
And
Can we as a
Another flaw in
municipality
the
set
cow
terms like
concept.
45 or 60 day payments?
Well,
Upon invoice?
We can't, no.
not what the people that are charging us a fee, I mean, their
No,
terms
it's
are,
just-
yeah. But I think what's gonna happen once we establish a finance committee, I think we can have further discussion on this, how we want to do the billing and, working with the office to make sure that, they have time to execute things in a timely manner based on the approval process. And then those recommendations from finance will come to the council. And I think that'll work well. Like you said, I mean, if all we're doing is saying, yeah, and it's already down the road and cashed, it's kind of a moot point.
So even with the items that Wendy is questioning and should be looked
they're all
into,
paid.
unless there's a way to recover those funds, it's just a
You may
lesson
not recover
learned.
that initial fund, but you may end that fund being paid in the future if it's something like the phones that are
So if we
captured.
can't recoup those monies that we have no idea
I-
why they were paid and where they went, if we can't recoup those monies, it's simply a lesson learned.
And part of my issue is that some of these things are allocated in areas where it's not really proper budgeting. So like if we have a workers' comp and building inspection, and we don't have a building inspector, that's put in the wrong place.
And that could just very well be the wrong code.
It might be the wrong code, but it needs to be fixed to have the proper, so.
Yeah, so in actuality, the accounts should be reviewed.
Yeah.
Before before the report comes to the council.
Okay.
So that might have been lacking with the lack of,
Committees.
well, not even just committees, but with staff.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that
And
as the treasurer,
I'm just trying to.
no, I know, I'm just saying, but that as, as our staff in the office, we build our
You've had.
processes. That would be something that, like, as the clerk treasurer, my responsibility would be to review these reports for accuracy before they, get presented to you guys. So hopefully you have less questions.
Beautiful. Thank you, Joanne.
Sure.
If you would call the roll then, please.
Sorry for all speaking.
No, that's fine.
Okay. John Blaha.
Yes.
Jim Brewster.
Aye.
Kathy Brown.
Aye.
Robin Nelson.
Aye.
Wendy Shelton.
Aye.
Rich Taylor.
Aye.
Eric Woznicki.
Aye.
Janita Zimmerman.
Aye.
Motion carried. 8K, consideration of request for proposal regarding legal services. Discussion and direction. Steve, were you gonna put some words around that first here?
Yeah, this request had come forward from a number of city council members to take a look at our legal services that are provided to the city council, to the mayor, myself, for all department heads for that matter. In essence, this is something that municipalities take a look at. We'll take a look at this on a regular basis. So it's what works for one municipality doesn't necessarily work for another. In essence, it's the prerogative of the city council to determine where you want to go for the future and what's in the best interest of the community itself. Just a comment, working with Randy, my working with Randy has been a real positive one from my perspective. He's been very prompt. He's been very accountable with my requests for information and assistance. Wherever I've been, the two strongest or where it's worked best for me is where the attorney, the president or the mayor and myself administrator, we all know the same things. In other words, we share information, we bounce things off each other, we assist and support one another, and it makes a difference as you go forward. That being said, like I say, what works in one community doesn't necessarily work in another community, but it's to you to consider whether or not you want to be seeking requests for proposals for legal services. And that's the prerogative of the city council, working with the mayor on this subject.
So yeah, I asked this to be put on the agenda for this evening. I'd had some council members interested in possibly exploring that. And so I don't know, Randy, did you want to explain a little bit of what your services have been to date? That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
There has been, I understand, some concern about how the city attorney worked with the prior mayor and the prior council. And in light of that and in recognition of that, I have a suggestion to offer on how to proceed going forward that may be of some benefit. I understand there was some concern about making a long-term commitment because in the ordinance, it says when you appoint a city attorney, it's for a two-year period. And my suggestion would be, what I offer as a suggestion is right now, don't make a long-term commitment. Don't make an appointment for now. Don't make any long-term commitment. And the city has a new clerk. It has a new mayor. It will soon have a new city administrator. And this would give a period to allow time to see how those individuals work with the city attorney and how that operates, how that functions. If it does function, great. It moves forward. You decide you can make a commitment. If it doesn't, then you can request proposals to try to make a change in the position. In that way, you'd be able to see how things are working with the entire group that generally works with the city attorney. I can say that making a change without doing that would lead to more time spent trying to fill another position. And I recognize this council has already spent a lot of time filling officers' positions. As a matter of fact, a special meeting tonight was required for that, for the purpose of filling another position. And I need to address some things that were out there in rumors. And I think it's only fair that I do that. One is it was suggested that this is a cash cow position for the city attorney. And I would like to remind the council, and you may recall, I was in front of you and presented the statement that I felt this city was paying too much for legal services. Those were the same comments I told you that I had made both to the mayor and to the city administrator on multiple times. I told the city administrator, you're going over the budget. You've got too many legal requests. You've got to cut that down. Somehow you have to bring this bill more in line or it's going to go over the budget. And I would always get the response back, let me worry about that. I take care of budgetary issues. You do what I tell you to do. And that's exactly what I did. You know, and yes, sir.
Who told you that?
That would be our administrator, Mr. Schnook. You know, when I was hired, and I think it's in the letter that's included in the packet, I was told by the city mayor at that time, Sandy Chrisman, that Mr. Schnook, as city administrator, would be the one giving me direction as to legal services. And everything that you do needs to go through him. So I followed that direction and did exactly what he told me to do. And sometimes I had to do what he told me to do in reverse, not do services. And I know there were instances where some of you made requests. Well, can you answer this question for me? And I apologetically had to get back and say, the city administrator has directed me not to work on this. And, you know, I felt bad about doing that. I didn't feel right about doing that, but I was again following what the city administrator had told me to do in my position. So, yes, sir.
Question.
Yes.
So in your acceptance letter to your appointment when Mr. Jelinek was elected, you stated repeatedly in your acceptance letter that you were going to be the mayor's attorney. You said your attorney. You never said the city of Kewaunee one time in that letter. to Mayor Jelinek. And so I'm asking you, were you representing the city, answerable to the council, or were you solely the mayor and or administrator's attorney?
I was representing the city and answerable to the council, but directed by the city administrator and the mayor.
Can I ask a question, Randy? Was there ever a time when you gave the city administrator advice and he either did not take that advice or told you to just stay out of the issue?
There were instances where that happened. Particularly more as time went on toward the end of his administration in the city. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
You just said that you're representing the city of Kewaunee.
Yes.
Can you look all of us and the citizens in the eye and say you properly represented the city of Kewaunee by not including the citizens and the council of the city of Kewaunee and just answer to just a couple individuals?
Well, I answered to the individuals I was told to answer to. And, you know, I invited.
You know enough about local government. I mean, you got councils, you got administrators,
Sure.
you got the elected officials. Elected officials, you're there to make sure that good people make
Good decisions.
make good decisions. Don't make bad decisions. Is that a good decision?
It was the decision I was told to make. I invited the council to, if you want to change that and tell me to answer to somebody else, I'm happy to do that. You know what typically happens, it's not unusual that there's some limitation placed on municipal attorneys as to what they're going to do and at whose direction. As an example, individuals in the city always have issues with boundary lines. And they contact the city attorney and say, I want you to research this and find out where the boundary line is. My first question is going to somebody that I answer to, which is typically city administrator, and ask him, should I do this or should I not? Because this appears to me to be a private legal counsel issue. They should each get their own attorneys. And rather than spend public funds for it, do you want me to tell them that? And sometimes they'll tell me, yeah, that's what we want to do. We don't want you to get into those private legal issues.
Randy, would you prefer to continue with what you wanted to say and then take some questions after, or would you prefer to answer some questions as you are?
Well, yeah, let me just finish by saying this. I know there was comment made that I was job hopping because I'd been at a different firm previously. I was at the same firm for 36 years and semi-retired to slow down a little bit. And after I semi-retired, I was recruited by a Green Bay firm to work with them. And, you know, I don't consider that job hopping, 36 years and then recruited by another firm, but that's what how I wanted to respond to that. And the other thing I wanted to say, a big part of what the city attorney has to do is to work with the staff, the department heads. And I've always maintained a good relationship with all of the department heads in Kewaunee, continue to work with them, continue to work with the police chief, who I have to work regularly with for prosecution of citations. And, you know, I think this, if you give me direction as to what you want me to do, I think this can work. But if you choose not to do that, you know, I'll leave that decision up to you.
I have a series of questions, sir. Are you now in any type of agreement or arrangement, financial or otherwise, to represent any former city staff or elected officials in a legal proceeding?
Any former city staff
Or
From
elected
city of Kewaunee?
officials? Correct,
Elected
in a legal
officials.
proceeding.
No.
If called to testify in a legal proceeding wherein the actions or knowledge of such actions by city staff or elected officials is held in question in a court of law, would you be regarded as a hostile witness?
I would be, from the standpoint that I would only do so if subpoenaed.
Do you have any knowledge of actions by current or former city staff or elected officials which, if called into question in a court of law, would require you to recuse yourself for any reason, including privilege?
There would be plenty of issues that involve privilege over the years that I've worked on, yes.
So you would not be allowed to represent the city if the city were to take action against such people based on privilege.
There would be instances where that would happen, sure.
In your recollection, at any time since your appointment as city attorney, was there an expectation that you are representing the former mayor's administrative staff solely and not the city council or the city at large, even though state statutes state that you are answerable to the council?
No,
Do you have knowledge of contracts, negotiations, or informal discussions regarding purchases or payments or promises of remuneration to or from city staff or elected officials that would rightly have come before the council per state statutes or ordinance or resolution?
do I have knowledge of payments that would come before the council?
That should have come before council and did not.
Oh, and did not. Well, the one regarding the building inspector, as we've discussed already.
And per the letter from your firm, Olenichek, Conway, Olenichek and Jerry, per that letter, they said that the payment to Mr. Schnook should have come before council before being made. Did it not?
Yes,
That was from your firm, but not from you.
well, that would have been from me.
I think it came from another attorney from your firm, though, as I recall from last December.
Yep,
And Mr. Mike May had already rendered opinion on October 26th of last year that should come before council.
right.
And that was known to every member of City Hall. And yet you told a story where the former city clerk came to you worried that she had done something improper in cutting that check to Mr. Schnook, did she not?
She came to me at some point during the process, and we discussed this. I haven't looked over the timing of it. But yes, I did have discussions with the clerk after she had cut that check.
And how would you describe those discussions?
She was concerned that she was in the middle of a dispute.
So it was known that this was in question. There was legal opinion given by Boardman and Clark attorney Mike May that this is what should happen, yet they proceeded in the face of uncertainty. Did you have any duty to report to council that such payments were being made?
I believe I found out the payment was being made at the same time the payment was known to the council. That's my recollection.
Have you at any time assisted former city staff or elected officials in targeting council members for political purposes by any means whatsoever?
Absolutely not. I stay out of political issues.
Regarding Mr. Davister's contract, was it legal for Mr. Davister to be signed to a contract as a contractor while still yet a city employee? Did that violate state statutes to sign a contract while he was still a city employee?
I was asked to do a legal opinion on that by Ms. Shelton, and the answer was no. That does not violate Wisconsin law.
Well, I'm gonna contend that it does. That might be adjudicated. I guess that's the end of my questions there. I think it's best to send that
Randy, I
to court.
I just have a couple questions here. When the building inspectors contract was drafted, did you have any part of that contract being drafted? You know who would, or can you tell me who was a part of that contract? We got the contract at 8:30 at night is when we were told. The council knew nothing about that the mayor was drafting a contract or even thinking of drafting a contract with the building inspector at that time until 8:30 at night.
Sure.
The next council meeting was Monday. Now, the problem that I have had from the beginning is that the contract is not valid. Now, there's been some, and if I can just, Mayor, if I can just, okay. I got a legal opinion here. This is a legal opinion from the League of Municipalities. And I'm just gonna read a little bit of it here. It says the law applies to local government and explains what local government is. And then it says local public officials is defined as an individual holding a local public office. Then it gives you a definition of what a local public office is. It includes elected officials, city and village managers, appointed officers, and positions where the individual serves for a specific term, and also appointive officers or positions filled by the governing body or executive administrative head when the appointees serve in the pleasure of the appointing authority. So I think we could come to an agreement that the building inspector would have been a local public officer.
He-
Would that-
He would be if he's during the time period when he's employed with the city,
During
yes.
the time period when he was employed with the city. That's correct. Now, according to the legal opinion here, this is from legal counsel Claire Silverman. It says prohibited conduct. The state ethics code prohibits local public officials from engaging in the following conduct. And that conduct states participating in the making of a municipal contract in his or her official capacity or performing some function requiring the exercise of discretion in regards to a municipal contract. So clearly, there was, I think, a violation of ethics here when we had a city employee, an administrator, and a mayor who were engaged in drafting a contract. Clearly, while that individual was still employed with the city of Kewaunee for at least, I believe it was 10 days.
Yeah, the difference that makes a distinction here is the fact that when you talk about making a contract, the law implies that to those who are able to vote upon that contract. And that's where the city building inspector doesn't have that ability. He can't approve his contract.
No, but if he takes part in that contract, that would definitely be a conflict of interest. Because he's a city employee who takes part in drafting a contract where he would become a what's the word I'm looking for?
A contractor, private
A
contractor.
contracted employee. He's taking part in drafting or approving his own contract while he's still working for the city. So a city employee now becomes a public contractor who's working for the city and helping draft his own contract
Without council approval.
without council approval.
In excess of the purchasing agreement limit of $15,000, by the way. So under interest in public contracts in the League of Municipalities book, section 946.13 of Wisconsin statutes says that no city official or employee acting in his or her official capacity may participate in approving a contract with the city if they have a direct or indirect financial interest in the contract. Furthermore, it states no elected or appointed city official or employee acting as a private citizen may negotiate, bid for, or enter into a contract with the city if he or she has a direct or indirect financial interest in the contract and is authorized or required by law to participate in the making of that contract.
All of
Let's
those
just-
words make a difference. All of those words.
So let's just say that if this issue were to go to a court of law, would you be able to represent the city in, let's just say, contending on the contract and the terms therein and the invoice that was submitted?
Yes,
You would.
yes.
You would not be a hostile witness. You would not be a person that was basically involved in said contract if the city is contending the contract.
I would not be a witness at all, actually. I would be a representative of the city and.
And you can do that without conflict of interest or impugning yourself.
Yes. Yeah, all of the words of that statute are extremely important, and it's been read to me numerous times. What people are missing is participating in. Participating in has been interpreted by our courts to mean somebody who has the authority to approve that contract, somebody in a board such as this that has the authority to approve.
Or the mayor.
Somebody
Who signed it.
Yes, yes. And the other part is required to participate, which means you're part of a board that this contract will come before, and it will be before you, even if you choose to abstain. So you're required to be on that board during the time the contract is before you. So both of those instances require that the person charged with this be part of the group that approves the contract.
Hypothetically, if this contract was determined to have been enacted illegally, would all terms of said contract be null and void?
Potentially.
That's my contention. Thank you.
My concern is you said there were times that you were asked to do, give your recommendations or information on certain things, and your recommendation was disregarded. At no time, and you said before that you were the city's and the council's representation, and you saw them doing things that you didn't feel were proper, but you never felt it was important to come to the council with some of the things you witnessed occurring?
The fact is, the city attorney is asked to do some work, and some work is left without going to legal counsel. And it would not be appropriate for a city attorney to go back to, for instance, an alderman or the city president and tell him, the council president, tell them that I told the mayor and the city administrator to do A and they decided to do B. That would simply be something that's unheard of unless it's something in violation of the law.
Yeah, I just got one other question here. In this letter here, just dated December 13th, 2021, there's a quote in here by Mr. May, and it says, "But I am most confused that now you tell me that it was some emergency in quotations that required the mayor to sign this contract, negotiated while Mr. Davister was still an employee of the city of Kewaunee." So I guess my question is, who determined that there was an emergency to hire a building inspector between 8:30 on a Friday night that could not wait until Monday? Because I'm sure you didn't come up with the emergency yourself. Someone must have told you that there was an emergency to hire this person. So who would have told you, and what would the emergency have been, is my question.
I was told after the fact
After
that
the
that
fact,
was the case. And I was told that by the city administrator.
did he tell you what the emergency was?
He said, well, what he told me is that there were numerous construction projects underway. They would all have to be halted if there's no building inspector performing the work, and it would take months to get a new building inspector.
on a Saturday and Sunday though?
Mr. Nesbit, did the city,
Hang on one second, please.
No, I wasn't told that on Saturday or Sunday.
No, I mean, I'm just wondering what the city administrator could have possibly thought or told you that would be an emergency for a contractor, that we need a building inspector on a Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I think I've told you before that I found out after the fact that this contract had been signed.
So
I understood that it was gonna come before council
Okay,
at the next meeting.
Mr. Nesbit, did the city administrator tell you that the building inspector had to resign as a city employee and assume the position as a contractor was an emergency? What was the emergency that he had to resign yet still retain the position? Do you know what that?
Don't know. Again,
Per
this was an
Wisconsin
after the fact thing.
Well, per Wisconsin Circuit Court access, if you look it up, you can see that there was a divorce proceeding filed the week prior for the building inspector. So he, I'm surmising, had an emergency. And then he never submitted one report or one invoice or anything until January of this year. I'll let you speculate as to what that was all about.
One of the things that really bothers me is that you justified the legality of this contract because of this emergency. That is, it's absurd.
Well, it wasn't absurd because I was called upon to do so by the mayor and the city administrator.
Follow-up question. It seems like they asked you to do things that breached the bounds of ethical behavior.
I will say that this instance, and I've told this council before, I would not make that decision again.
And I, for one, cannot get past that.
Okay.
I wasn't here. I heard the secondhand that you recommended putting some insurance requirements on that contract.
Yes,
So you just said a little while ago that you had been informed of this contract after it was done, but you also participated in putting insurance requirements on it. So were you part of the contract drafting or were you not part of the?
glad you asked that. Wanted to clarify that because
Because that's contradicting what you just said.
sure, this contract was sent to me by the city administrator asking, do you have any problems with this contract?
So you were
And I,
involved.
no, let me finish. And I said, yeah, I do. Can I make a recommendation as to what needs to be done to this to make it workable? City needs an out. And it needs insurance. And so he said, go ahead, recommend that language. And I sent it back to him. Now, at that point, I understood that contract was going to come before this body, before the city council. It was never suggested to me that it was going to be signed before it came before the city council. So I was as surprised as anybody in this room when I found out that contract had already been signed.
The dollar amount that you put for insurance requirements, who came up with that number? And is that enough to cover the city's butt if something would go wrong?
I don't remember what that dollar amount was. It $1 million or was it $500,000? I don't remember what that was.
Well,
I just want a quick question here. And by the way, thanks for standing up and taking these questions because you probably knew it was going to be pretty tough. So if an emergency was declared, if the city administrator said there was an emergency, by state statute, does the mayor not have to declare in writing an emergency? He can't just say, the mayor can't just say, well, I'm going to do this because it's an emergency.
Right.
Well, you have to have a declaration of an emergency by state statute, correct?
Correct.
Was there ever a declaration, if you told Michael May that there was an emergency, did the mayor ever draft a declaration of emergency?
As to COVID, yes. As to
No,
this issue, not.
As to this, as to Robbie Davister's contract, he never declared a statement of emergency,
No.
even though he said there was an emergency.
Right.
and Eric, the insurance was for $150,000.
It's not much. I would like to make a motion that we put out an RFP for legal services for the city of Kewaunee.
I would second that.
I just have. Can I ask a
Any
quick?
further discussion?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Does the city have to have, by state statute, do we have to have an appointed attorney?
No.
We do not have to declare an appointed attorney. Okay.
I would
Well, I'll leave it
remind you
at
that
that.
we still have Michael May.
And I understand that. I
Is there
understand.
any further discussion?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Randy.
you, Randy.
So we have a motion and a second to put out RFP. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I'd like to make a motion that we enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85 1 Charlie concerning employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation date of any public employee over which a governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, namely the public works position, and also pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85 1 Gulf, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, namely building inspector.
Thank you for reading that to me.
I'll second it.
All right, will you take the roll, please, Joanne? Thanks, Brandon.
John Waha. Yes. Did he say yes? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Jim Brewster. Kathy Brown. Robin Nelson. Wendy Shelton. Rich Taylor.
Aye.
Eric Woznicki. Janita Zimmerman.
Yes. Motion carried. There it is in the break room. Bring it up back for everyone.
Click, I'll watch two, so we got double. And then you can stop the video, so now I don't want this. So now you're live,
Because it says red live up there.
right, so if you.
Unmute self.
Start video. Unmute self. Live. Okay, so we will. Item 10, there is no, we will reconvene open session. Item 11, there is no action. Which brings us to item 12. Are there any announcements? Are there any announcements?
The Lighthouse sent out their RFP. And I have a meeting tomorrow with an architecture firm to see if they have questions for me. I hope I can answer them.
Beautiful.
Very exciting.
All right, so for forgetful Janita, I'll have to think about it next month. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Rich?
I'll second it.
No, Rich got it. Janita, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Great meeting tonight.
Thank you all for
Thank you.
Great meeting.
time spent. It was worth the price of admission, I must say.
This we talked about
I
for the
will
week.
say that this is